In a world built on power and silence, some connections aren't chosen, they're inevitable. Ariana Greco never imagined that walking into Don Rafael Santini's estate would change everything. He was untouchable, dangerous, a man who commanded empires with a glance. She was just supposed to work for him. But the moment their eyes met across that marble foyer, something shifted. Fate, obsession, protection, call it what you want. What followed would test them both in ways neither could predict. If you love intense, slow-burn dark romance, please like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin. Ariana's heels clicked against the polished marble as she entered the Santini estate for the first time. The air smelled of expensive cologne and old money. Chandeliers hung like frozen tears above her head, casting prismatic light across walls adorned with Renaissance paintings that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. She'd been hired as his personal assistant. A job she needed desperately after her previous employer had gone bankrupt, leaving her with rent due and a dwindling savings account. The Santini position paid 3 times what she'd made before, but everyone had warned her. Working for Rafael Santini meant entering a world most people only whispered about. The butler, an older man with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing, led her through corridors lined with oil paintings and bronze sculptures. Everything here whispered wealth and danger in equal measure. Her fingers tightened around her leather portfolio as they walked deeper into the estate. "Mr. Santini is very particular about punctuality," the butler said without looking back. "You've made a good first impression by arriving early." "I believe in being prepared," Ariana replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "That will serve you well here, Miss Greco." They stopped before a set of mahogany doors. The butler knocked twice, then opened them without waiting for a response. "Miss Ariana Greco, sir." Then she saw him. Don Rafael Santini stood near the floor-to-ceiling window, hands clasped behind his back, staring out at the sprawling gardens below. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a charcoal suit that fit like a second skin. His dark hair was slicked back, revealing a sharp jawline and a face carved from stone. Even from behind he radiated authority. He didn't turn around immediately. "Miss Greco," he said, his voice low and controlled. Italian accent threading through each syllable like silk over steel. "You're early." "I believe in punctuality, Mr. Santini." Now he turned. Fully. His eyes, dark, unreadable, intense, locked onto hers. For a moment the world narrowed to just that gaze. It felt like being studied, dissected, claimed all at once. Ariana's breath caught in her throat. She'd seen powerful men before, but Rafael Santini was something else entirely. There was a stillness to him, a controlled danger that made her instincts scream both run and stay. "Good," he said simply, his gaze traveling over her face with an intensity that made her skin warm. "So do I." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Sit." Ariana crossed the room, hyper-aware of his eyes following her every movement. She settled into the leather chair, crossing her ankles and placing her portfolio on her lap. Raphael moved to his desk but didn't sit. Instead he leaned against it, arms crossed, studying her with that same unnerving focus. "Your resume is impressive," he said. 3 years with Moretti Enterprises. Managed a team of 5. Reorganized their entire filing system and saved them 6 figures in the process. "Thank you, sir. Yet you're here working for me instead of moving up in that company. Why?" Ariana met his gaze steadily. "Moretti Enterprises filed for bankruptcy 2 months ago. I was let go with the rest of the staff. And you need the money." "It wasn't a question." "I need the opportunity," she corrected. "Money follows good work." Something flickered in his eyes. Approval maybe. Or interest. "You understand what this position entails?" he asked. "Long hours. High stress. Complete discretion." "I understand. And you understand who I am?" Her pulse quickened. "Yes." "Then you know that loyalty is not negotiable in my world. Once you're in. There's no halfway." Ariana held his gaze. "I'm not afraid of commitment, Mr. Santini." "Raphael," he said. "When we're alone you'll call me Raphael." The intimacy of the request caught her off guard. "That seems informal for a professional relationship." "It's what I prefer." His eyes didn't waver. "From you." The weight of those last 2 words settled over her like a physical thing. Heat crept up her neck and she forced herself to maintain eye contact. Understood, she said quietly. Good. He pushed off the desk and rounded it, settling into his chair with the grace of a predator. You start tomorrow. 8 a.m. sharp. I'll have security clearance arranged by tonight. Your desk is outside this office. You'll manage my schedule, screen my calls, handle correspondence, and attend all meetings with me. You'll also accompany me to any events that require my presence. Events? Galas. Dinners. Business functions. His gaze intensified. You'll be at my side. Understand? Ariana swallowed. Yes. Any questions? 1,000. But she asked the safest one. Is there anything specific you expect from your assistant that wasn't covered in the job description? Raphael leaned back in his chair, a ghost of a smile playing at his lips. Honesty. If I ask you a question, I want the truth. Even if you think it's not what I want to hear. Can you do that? Yes. Even if it makes you uncomfortable? Yes. His smile widened fractionally. We'll see. He stood, signaling the end of the interview. Ariana rose as well, extending her hand. Raphael looked at it for a moment before taking it. His hand was warm, large, completely enveloping hers. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through her system. Welcome to the family, Ariana, he said, his thumb brushing once, so briefly she almost thought she'd imagined it, across her knuckles before releasing her hand. Thank you, Raphael. His name felt foreign on her tongue. Intimate. Dangerous. She turned to leave. Ariana. He stopped, looking back. Wear whatever makes you comfortable, he said. You don't need to change for anyone here. Especially not for me. The unexpected kindness caught her off guard. She nodded and left, her heart pounding harder than it should have been. Behind her, Raphael stood at the window once more, watching her cross the grounds to her car. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. He'd felt it the moment she'd walked in. That pull. That inevitable, dangerous pull. This was going to be a problem. The first week passed in a blur of schedules, phone calls, and silent observation. Ariana quickly learned that Raphael Santini wasn't just wealthy, he was feared. Men twice his age addressed him with deference that bordered on terror. His word was law. A single phone call from him could make or break empires. But with her he was different. Polite. Measured. Almost careful. He never raised his voice. Never lost his temper in her presence. When he gave instructions, he looked her in the eye. When she made mistakes, inevitable in the first few days, he corrected her with patience that surprised her. Not like that, he'd said when she'd scheduled a meeting incorrectly. Move Castellano to 3 p.m. He's always late. Building in that buffer keeps things running smoothly. Of course. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for learning, Ariana. Just remember for next time. She'd nodded, face warm, and made the correction. By the third day she'd noticed other things too. Her favorite coffee appeared on her desk each morning. A vanilla latte with an extra shot, perfectly made. She'd never mentioned her order to anyone in the house. Security always walked her to her car at night, no matter how late she stayed. When she'd protested that it wasn't necessary, the guard had simply said, "Mr. Santini's orders, miss." Once, when a vendor had spoken rudely to her on the phone, calling her sweetheart, in that condescending tone that made her blood boil, she'd handled it professionally and moved on. The next day that vendor had been replaced. When she'd asked Raphael about it, he'd simply said, "I don't tolerate disrespect toward my people." His people. As if she already belonged to him. The thought should have alarmed her. Instead, it sent a warm flutter through her chest that she immediately tried to suppress. On Friday of her first week, Raphael called her into his office just before 5 p.m. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. Ariana sat, pulling out her tablet in case he needed to dictate something. "Put that away," he said. "This isn't work." She set the tablet aside, confused. "Okay." Raphael leaned back in his chair, studying her with that intense focus that made her feel exposed. "How are you finding the position?" "It's exactly what I expected. Challenging but rewarding." "Are you being treated well? By the staff? The security team?" "Yes, everyone's been very professional." "Good." He paused. "And me? Am I difficult to work for?" The question surprised her. There was something almost vulnerable in the way he asked it, though his expression remained neutral. "No, Ariana said honestly. You're demanding but fair. Clear in your expectations. I appreciate that. Something softened in his eyes. You don't have to be diplomatic, Ariana. Remember what I said about honesty. I am being honest. He studied her for a long moment as if searching for the lie. When he found none, he nodded slowly. You've exceeded my expectations this week, he said. You're efficient, intelligent, and you don't flinch when things get intense. That's rare. Thank you. I'm increasing your salary. Effective immediately. Ariana blinked. What? Why? Because you're worth more than what I'm paying you. He pulled out an envelope and slid it across the desk. Your new contract. You'll see the adjustment. She opened it and her eyes widened. He'd increased her salary by 40%. Raphael, this is too much. It's what you deserve. Take it. I haven't even been here a week. Ariana. His voice dropped to that low, commanding tone that made something in her stomach flip. Don't argue with me about your own value. You're an asset. Assets are compensated appropriately. She looked down at the contract, throat tight. Thank you. There's one more thing. She looked up. Tomorrow night there's a dinner. Business associates from Milano. You'll attend with me. As your assistant? Yes. His gaze held hers. Wear something formal. I'll have a car pick you up at 7. I can drive myself. The car will pick you up at 7, he repeated, leaving no room for argument. Ariana recognized the futility of protesting. Understood. Good. He stood, signaling the end of the conversation. Enjoy your weekend, Ariana. She rose, tucking the contract into her portfolio. At the door she paused and looked back. Raphael was watching her, his expression unreadable but intense. Have a good weekend, Raphael, she said softly. His lips curved into the smallest smile. You too. He left, her heart pounding. Behind the closed door, Raphael exhaled slowly, dragging a hand through his hair. He was in trouble. Deep, dangerous trouble. Because every time she said his name, every time she looked at him with those honest, unguarded eyes, he felt something crack in the walls he'd built around himself. And that was unacceptable. He'd built his empire on control. On distance. On never letting anyone close enough to matter. But Ariana Greco was slipping through his defenses like smoke through his fingers. And he wasn't sure he wanted to stop her. Saturday night arrived faster than Ariana expected. She stood in front of her closet, staring at her limited selection of formal wear. Most of her nice clothes had been purchased for her previous job, and they suddenly felt inadequate for the world Raphael inhabited. She finally settled on a simple black dress, sleeveless, fitted, hitting just above the knee. Professional. Safe. At exactly 7 p.m. her doorbell rang. But it wasn't a driver. It was Raphael. He stood in her doorway wearing a midnight blue suit that made his dark eyes even more striking, his hair perfectly styled, his presence filling the small hallway outside her apartment. You're supposed to send a car, she said, too surprised to be polite. Change of plans. His gaze traveled over her, slow and deliberate, and something heated flickered in his eyes. You look beautiful. Heat rushed to her cheeks. Thank you. You look very nice. His lips twitched. Very nice. Handsome, she corrected, flustered. You look handsome. Better. He extended his hand. Ready. She grabbed her clutch and took his hand, trying to ignore how right it felt when his fingers closed around hers. The car waiting outside wasn't a sedan. It was a Rolls-Royce, sleek and black, with a driver who held the door open for them. This is excessive, Ariana murmured as Raphael slid in beside her. I don't do anything halfway, he replied. You'll learn that about me. The drive to the restaurant took 20 minutes through the city. Raphael didn't release her hand the entire time. His thumb traced absent circles on her palm, the touch casual yet intimate, as if he'd been doing it for years. Ariana told herself to pull away. This was crossing a line. Professional boundaries existed for a reason. But she didn't move. Neither did he. The restaurant was the kind of place that didn't advertise. No sign outside. Just a red door and a man in a suit who nodded at Raphael and ushered them inside. The interior was all low lighting, leather booths and old-world elegance. Raphael's hand moved to the small of her back as they were led to a private dining room. 3 men already sat at the table. They stood when Raphael entered, greeting him in rapid Italian. Ariana caught only pieces of the conversation. Her Italian was rusty at best, but she understood the power dynamics immediately. These men deferred to Raphael. Completely. Gentlemen, Raphael said, switching to English, this is Ariana Greco, my assistant. Bella, one of them said, reaching for her hand and kissing her knuckles. Such beauty wasted on paperwork. Raphael's hand tightened on her back. Ariana is invaluable to my operations. I'd appreciate if you'd remember that. The message was clear. Look but don't touch. The man released her hand quickly. Of course. Forgive me. Dinner progressed with conversation about shipping routes, investment opportunities, and various business ventures that Ariana suspected weren't entirely legal. She said little, observing and taking mental notes. But she felt Raphael's attention on her constantly. Even when he was speaking to the others, part of him remained focused on her. His hand occasionally brushing her arm. His gaze checking in with her. Making sure she was comfortable. Making sure she was safe. Halfway through the meal, one of the men, the one who'd kissed her hand, leaned toward her with a smile. Tell me, Miss Greco, how does a woman like you end up working for a man like Santini? Luck, she said simply. Luck? Or something else? His tone was insinuating. Before she could respond, Raphael's voice cut through the conversation like a blade. Careful, Vittorio. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Vittorio raised his hands in surrender. I meant no offense. Then choose your words more carefully. Raphael's tone was pleasant, but the threat underneath was unmistakable. The rest of the dinner passed without incident, but the tension remained. When they finally left, Raphael's hand stayed possessively on her back until they were in the car. Once the door closed behind them, he exhaled slowly. I apologize for Vittorio, he said. He was out of line. You don't need to apologize for him. I brought you into that situation. So yes, I do. Ariana turned to look at him. In the dim light of the car, his profile was all sharp angles and shadows. You protected me. You didn't have to. Yes, he said quietly. I did. Why? He turned to face her, and the intensity in his eyes stole her breath. Because the thought of anyone disrespecting you makes me want to burn things down, he said simply. The raw honesty in his voice sent shivers down her spine. Raphael. I know. He dragged a hand through his hair. I know this is inappropriate. You work for me. I'm your boss. There are rules, boundaries, all the things that should stop me from feeling what I feel. And what do you feel? He looked at her for a long moment. Everything I shouldn't, he finally said. Everything I can't afford to feel. The space between them felt charged, electric. Ariana knew she should pull back, create distance, remember why this was a terrible idea. Instead she whispered, what if I feel it too? His eyes darkened. Don't say that unless you mean it. I mean it. Raphael moved closer, his hand coming up to cup her face with devastating gentleness. If we cross this line, he said, his voice rough, there's no going back. I don't do casual, Ariana. I don't do temporary. If you're mine completely. That's a lot of possession in one sentence. I know what I am. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. But I'll also worship you like the miracle you are. I'll protect you with everything I have. I'll give you the world if you ask for it. That's what you'd be getting. All of me. The good and the dangerous. Ariana's heart pounded so hard she was sure he could hear it. I need time, she whispered. To think. This is too much, he finished. Yes. He nodded slowly and pulled back, though his hand lingered on her face for a moment longer. Take all the time you need, he said. But know this, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm not changing my mind. The certainty in his voice should have terrified her. Instead, it made her feel safer than she'd felt in years. The following week was torture. Professional torture. Raphael kept his distance physically, but his attention never wavered. Every morning her coffee appeared. Every evening, security walked her to her car. And every moment in between she felt his eyes on her. Watching. Waiting. Wanting. He tried to focus on work. And she did. Her efficiency actually improved as she learned the rhythms of Raphael's world. But underneath every task, every meeting, every phone call, was the awareness of him. The way he said her name. The way his gaze softened when he looked at her. The way he positioned himself between her and anyone who might pose even the slightest threat. On Wednesday she found a gift on her desk. A sleek black box tied with silk ribbon. Inside was a bracelet. White gold, delicate, clearly expensive. Tiny diamonds caught the light like captured stars. No note. But she knew. Her hands trembled as she lifted it from the box. It was beautiful. Too beautiful. Too much. She should return it. Should maintain boundaries. Instead she put it on. When she entered Raphael's office for their afternoon briefing, his eyes immediately dropped to her wrist. The satisfaction that crossed his face was unmistakable. "It suits you," he said quietly. "You didn't have to. I wanted to. Raphael, this is too expensive." "Nothing is too expensive for you." He stood rounding his desk. "Do you know what that bracelet represents?" "No." "Protection. In my world, wearing my gifts means you're under my protection. It tells everyone exactly who you belong to." "I don't belong to anyone." "Don't you?" He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. "Because I felt you pulling away all week. Fighting this. And yet you're wearing my gift." "Why?" Ariana's breath caught. "I don't know." "Yes, you do." His hand came up, fingers ghosting along her jaw. "You feel it. This pull between us. This inevitable thing that we're both pretending we can ignore. It's not appropriate." "Fuck appropriate." The curse was soft, almost tender. "I've never felt this before, Ariana. This need. This hunger. You've been in my life for 2 weeks and you've already changed everything. People will talk. Let them. They'll say I slept my way into this position. Anyone who says that will regret it." His eyes hardened. "I promise you that. You can't control what people think." "No. But I can control what they say in my presence. And I can make it very clear that you earned every single thing you have through your own merit." His thumb brushed her bottom lip. "You're brilliant, Ariana. Capable. Strong. You don't need me to succeed. But God, I want to be the one standing beside you when you do." Tears pricked her eyes. "This scares me." "Why?" "Because you have all the power here. In this relationship, in this world. What happens when you get bored? When the novelty wears off? I'll have given up everything. My reputation, my professionalism, maybe even my career. For something that might not last." Raphael's expression softened. "Look at me." She did. "I understand your fear," he said quietly. "I do. But I need you to understand something. I'm 38 years old. I've had relationships. I've had women throw themselves at me for my money, my power, my name. Not once, not ever, have I felt about anyone the way I feel about you. This isn't novelty. This isn't boredom waiting to happen. This is the real thing. And if you give me a chance, I will spend every day proving that to you." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I can't breathe when you're not in the room." His voice cracked slightly. "Because I've rearranged my entire schedule just to have more time near you. Because the thought of you leaving, of not seeing you every day, feels like death." A tear slipped down her cheek. Raphael caught it with his thumb, his expression pained. "Don't cry," he whispered. "Please don't cry." "I'm scared of how much I want this," she admitted. "Of how much I want you." "Then let yourself have it. Have me. What if we destroy each other? Then we'll burn together." His forehead pressed against hers. "But I don't think that's what happens. I think we save each other." Ariana closed her eyes, breathing him in. Letting herself feel the truth of what he was saying. She was falling. Had already fallen. And maybe it was time to stop fighting it. "Okay," she whispered. Raphael went still. "Okay. Yes." She opened her eyes, meeting his gaze. "Yes to this. To us. To whatever this becomes." The joy that flooded his face was breathtaking. He kissed her then. Soft. Reverent. Like she was something precious he'd been searching for his entire life. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. "Tonight," he said against her lips. "Have dinner with me tonight. Not as your boss. As the man who's completely fucking gone for you." She smiled. "Yes. Say my name. Raphael." Again. "Raphael." He kissed her once more, deeper this time, claiming and being claimed in equal measure. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were molten. "Mine," he said simply. And for the first time, Ariana didn't argue. That night changed everything. Raphael picked her up at 7. This time he told her to dress casually. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, feeling strangely vulnerable without the armor of formal clothing. He took her to his penthouse in the city. Not the estate where she worked. Somewhere private. Personal. "I've never brought anyone here," he said as they rode the elevator to the top floor. "This is my space. Away from business. Away from everything." The penthouse was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Minimalist furniture. A grand piano in the corner. Everything clean, elegant, controlled. Just like him. "Do you play?" Ariana asked, nodding toward the piano. "My mother taught me. Before she died." The grief in his voice was old but still present. She touched his arm gently. "I'm sorry. It was a long time ago." He covered her hand with his. "But thank you." They had dinner on the terrace. A simple meal that Raphael had clearly prepared himself. Pasta, wine, fresh bread. Nothing ostentatious. Just intimate. "You cooked?" Ariana asked, surprised. Shocked. "A little." He smiled. "I'm full of surprises, tesoro." The endearment, treasure, sent warmth flooding through her chest. They talked for hours. About everything. Her childhood in a small town. His rise to power after his father's death. Her dreams of traveling. His fear that he'd become too much like the men he'd had to destroy to survive. "Do you regret it?" she asked quietly. "The path you chose?" Raphael was silent for a long moment. "I regret the necessity of it. But I don't regret surviving. That's what power is in my world. Survival. And protecting the people who matter." "Do I matter?" His eyes locked on hers. "More than you know." Later they moved inside. Raphael poured them each a glass of wine and put music on, something soft and Italian that she didn't recognize. "Dance with me," he said, extending his hand. "I'm not very good." "I don't care." She took his hand and let him pull her close. His arm wrapped around her waist, holding her against him. They swayed slowly, barely moving, just existing together in the moment. "Thank you," Raphael murmured against her hair. "For what?" "For taking a chance on me. For not running when you should have." Ariana pulled back enough to look up at him. "Maybe I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes. He cupped her face in both hands, kissing her with an intensity that stole her breath. This wasn't the gentle kiss from his office. This was hunger. Need. Years of control finally cracking. Ariana kissed him back just as desperately, her fingers tangling in his hair. Everything inside her was screaming yes, finally this. Raphael lifted her effortlessly, her legs wrapping around his waist. He carried her down the hallway without breaking the kiss, navigating by memory alone. They reached his bedroom, dark walls, huge bed, more windows overlooking the glittering city. He set her down gently, his forehead pressed to hers. "Tell me to stop," he whispered roughly. "Tell me this is too fast. Tell me you need more time. Because if we do this, Ariana, there's no going back. You'll be mine. Completely." "I don't want to stop," she breathed. "Are you sure?" "Yes." His eyes searched hers one more time. Then he kissed her again and the world fell away. Morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting the room in shades of gold. Ariana woke wrapped in Raphael's arms, his body warm and solid against hers. The sheets were tangled around them, evidence of the night they'd shared. For a long moment she just breathed, letting herself exist in this stolen peace before reality crashed back in. She'd slept with her boss. Her incredibly powerful, dangerous, possessive boss. And she didn't regret it. Not even a little. "Stop overthinking," Raphael murmured against her hair, his voice rough with sleep. "I'm not." "You are. I can feel it." He tightened his hold, pressing a kiss to her shoulder. Your entire body just tensed. She turned in his arms, meeting his gaze. Even sleep softened and unguarded, he was devastating. Dark stubble shadowed his jaw. His hair was mussed from her fingers. His eyes, those intense, consuming eyes, watched her with something that looked like reverence. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. "Now." His thumb traced her jawline with devastating gentleness. "Now you understand that you're not my assistant anymore." Her heart skipped. "Then what am I?" "Wine." Simple. Absolute. My partner. My woman. The person I protect above everything else. Raphael, that's not how the professional world works. I don't care about the professional world. His eyes hardened slightly. I care about you. About us. Everything else is secondary. People will talk. Let them. They'll say terrible things. And they'll only say them once. His hand slid into her hair, holding her gently but firmly. Ariana, listen to me. I've spent my entire life building power. Creating fear. Making sure no one could ever touch me or mine. Do you really think I'm going to let anyone disrespect you? Let anyone make you feel less than the extraordinary woman you are? It's not that simple. Yes, it is. He kissed her forehead. You're under my protection now. That means something in my world. It means everything. Ariana wanted to argue. Wanted to explain all the ways this could go wrong. But looking into his eyes, seeing the absolute certainty there, she found herself believing him. Maybe love didn't have to be complicated. Maybe sometimes it was just this. Two people choosing each other despite the obstacles. Okay, she whispered. Relief flooded his expression. Okay. Yes. We'll figure it out. Together. The smile that broke across his face was worth every risk. He kissed her then, slow and deep and full of promise. When he pulled back, his eyes were molten. Stay, he said. Today. Tonight. Let me have you for just a little longer before we go back to reality. I should go home, change. I'll send someone for clothes. Whatever you need. His hand traced down her spine, making her shiver. Please, Tesoro. Give me today. How could she say no to that? Okay, she breathed. His answering smile was pure satisfaction. They spent the day in the penthouse, existing in their own private world. Raphael cooked breakfast, showing off skills that surprised her. They talked, laughed, made love again with an intensity that left them both breathless. For those stolen hours, they weren't a mafia boss and his assistant. They were just Raphael and Ariana, two people falling helplessly, hopelessly in love. But reality, as it always does, came crashing back. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Ariana walked into the estate with her head high, the bracelet Raphael had given her still on her wrist. She'd made her choice. Now she had to own it. The whispers started immediately. Did you see how he looked at her Friday night? They say she stayed at his penthouse all weekend. Well, we all know how she really got the job. Ariana kept walking, face neutral, refusing to give them the satisfaction of a reaction. But each whispered comment felt like a small knife between her ribs. She reached her desk and started organizing for the day. Raphael had a full schedule. Meetings with investors, a call with associates in Sicily, dinner with a potential business partner. Ariana. She looked up. Raphael stood in his office doorway, already dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, his hair immaculate. But his eyes were soft when they looked at her. Come here, he said quietly. She walked into his office. He closed the door behind her and immediately pulled her into his arms, kissing her thoroughly. Good morning, he murmured against her lips. Raphael, someone could have seen. I don't care. He pulled back enough to look at her. Are you okay? I heard the whispers. Of course he had. I'm fine. Liar. His thumb brushed her cheek. Talk to me. Ariana sighed. It's nothing I didn't expect. People will talk. I just have to prove them wrong. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Yes, I do. I have to prove I earned this position. That I'm good at my job. That I'm more than just. She trailed off. Just what? My lover? My woman? Raphael's voice hardened. You are all of those things and so much more. Anyone who reduces you to just one part doesn't deserve your time or energy. Easy for you to say. You're not the one they're talking about. His jaw tightened. They'll stop. You can't control what people think. Watch me. He kissed her forehead. Now we have a full day. Ready? She nodded, trying to shake off the unease settling in her stomach. Raphael was right. They'd figure it out. Together. The next 3 weeks were a dangerous game of restraint and revelation. Publicly they maintained professionalism. Raphael kept appropriate distance during meetings. Ariana managed his schedule with ruthless efficiency. To anyone watching they were exactly what they should be, boss and assistant. But privately they were insatiable. Late nights in his office that ended with her pressed against his desk, his mouth on her neck. Stolen moments in the car between appointments, his hand sliding up her thigh while the driver kept his eyes forward. Weekends at the penthouse where the rest of the world ceased to exist. Ariana had never felt more alive. More wanted. More consumed. Raphael was everything he'd promised. Protective, possessive, devoted. He learned every detail about her. Her favorite foods. The way she liked her coffee. The books she read. The dreams she'd given up on. And slowly, carefully he began making those dreams reality. "What's this?" she asked one evening, finding plane tickets on her desk. "Venice," Raphael said, appearing behind her. "You said you'd always wanted to go." "Raphael, I can't just leave. 2 weeks from now. Friday through Monday. I've cleared both our schedules." His arms wrapped around her waist. "Say yes." How could she say no? Yes. His smile against her neck made her heart flutter. But not everything was perfect. The whispers continued. Quieter now but still present. And Ariana noticed the way some of Raphael's associates looked at her. Assessing, dismissive, like she was a temporary distraction rather than a permanent fixture. It shouldn't have bothered her. But it did. One afternoon she overheard 2 of the household staff talking in the hallway. "She won't last. They never do. 6 months tops. Then he'll find someone new. Poor thing, probably thinks she's special." Ariana stood frozen, their words cutting deeper than they should have. That night she was quiet during dinner at Raphael's penthouse. "Talk to me," he said, setting down his wine glass. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "Ariana." His voice dropped to that commanding tone. "Don't lie to me." She set down her fork, meeting his eyes. How many what? Women. Before me. How many have sat where I'm sitting, thinking they were special, only to be replaced when you got bored?" Raphael's expression darkened. "Is that what you think this is?" "I don't know what to think. I hear the whispers, Raphael. She won't last. He'll replace her. They never stay." He was silent for a long moment, his jaw working. Then he stood, rounded the table and pulled her to her feet. "Come with me." He led her to his bedroom, but instead of the bed he took her to the walk-in closet. The enormous space was mostly empty. Raphael traveled light, kept his life minimal. But on one wall, there was a small collection of photographs in simple frames. "My mother," he said, pointing to a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "My father. My sister." Ariana's breath caught. "I didn't know you had a sister." "Had." The pain in his voice was raw. "She died when I was 20. Car accident." "Raphael, I'm so sorry." "This is everyone I've ever loved," he continued, his voice rough. 3 people. 3. And I lost all of them before I was 25. So I stopped letting people in. I built walls so high, so thick that nothing could touch me. No one could hurt me." He turned to face her, cupping her face in his hands. "Until you walked into my life and destroyed every single defense I had." His eyes were fierce. "You want to know how many women came before you? Dozens. Maybe more. But not one of them mattered. Not one of them got past the surface. Not one of them saw me, really saw me, the way you do." Tears slipped down Ariana's cheeks. "You're not temporary," Raphael said, his voice breaking slightly. "You're not replaceable. You're the woman I want to wake up next to for the rest of my life. The woman I want to build something real with. The woman He stopped, swallowed hard. "The woman I love." Ariana's breath caught. "You love me. Desperately. Completely. In a way that terrifies me." His thumb brushed away her tears. "So when you hear those whispers, when you doubt this, remember what I'm telling you right now. You're not one of many. You're the only one who's ever mattered." She kissed him then, pouring everything she felt into it. Relief, joy, love so overwhelming it threatened to consume her. "I love you too," she whispered against his lips. "So much it scares me. Then we'll be scared together." They made love that night with an intensity that left them both shaking. And afterward, wrapped in his arms, Ariana finally let herself believe. This was real. This was permanent. This was forever. The charity gala arrived on a Thursday night, one of the biggest events of the season. The Santini estate was transformed into something out of a fairy tale. Hundreds of guests filled the ballroom. Politicians, businessmen, socialites draped in diamonds and designer gowns. Ariana wore the dress Raphael had chosen for her. A stunning midnight blue gown that hugged her curves and flowed like water. Diamonds glittered at her throat and ears. More gifts from Raphael that she'd initially protested but eventually accepted. "You look like a dream," he'd said when he'd seen her, his eyes darkening with want. "Every man in that room is going to hate me for having you." "Good," she'd replied, surprising herself. His answering smile had been pure satisfaction. Now standing beside him in the ballroom, Ariana felt the weight of hundreds of eyes. Whispers followed them everywhere. But Raphael's hand stayed possessively on the small of her back, a constant reminder that she wasn't alone. "Mr. Santini." An older man approached, his smile politician bright. "Wonderful event. And who is this lovely creature?" "Ariana Greco," Raphael said coolly. "My partner." "Not assistant. Partner." The declaration sent warmth flooding through her chest. They worked the room together, Raphael introducing her to business associates, politicians, old family friends. And with each introduction he made it clear, she wasn't just his assistant. She was his equal. His chosen. Then Marco De Luca arrived. Ariana recognized him immediately from the guest list. Younger son of a rival family. Handsome in that obvious way, with 2 white teeth and cologne that probably cost more than her rent. He moved through the crowd like he owned it, his gaze predatory. And it landed directly on her. "Raphael Santini," Marco said, approaching with a wide smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Throwing another legendary party, I see." "Marco." Raphael's tone was neutral, but Ariana felt his hand tighten on her back. "I didn't expect to see you here. Wouldn't miss it. The Santini galas are always illuminating." His gaze slid to Ariana, traveling over her in a way that made her skin crawl. "And who is this vision?" "Ariana Greco," Raphael said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "My partner." "Partner." Marco's grin widened. "How progressive of you, Raphael. Tell me, Miss Greco, do you actually get to make decisions, or is partner just a prettier word for?" "Choose your next words very carefully," Raphael interrupted, his tone deadly quiet. Marco raised his hands in mock surrender. "No offense intended. I simply meant that with a face like yours, Miss Greco, you should be front and center. Not hidden behind anyone." "I'm exactly where I want to be," Ariana said firmly. "Are you?" Marco stepped closer and Ariana felt Raphael's entire body tense beside her. "Because a woman like you deserves to be worshipped. Not kept." "She is worshipped," Raphael said, moving slightly to position himself between them. "By someone who actually knows her worth. Now if you'll excuse us." "Just one dance," Marco said, addressing Ariana directly. "Surely your partner isn't so possessive that he'd deny you a simple dance?" The challenge hung in the air. Ariana felt Raphael's control fraying. She placed a hand on his arm, squeezing gently. "I appreciate the offer," she said to Marco, her voice cool and professional. "But I don't dance with men who disrespect my choices. Enjoy your evening." She turned away and Raphael moved with her, his hand sliding to her waist. Behind them Marco laughed. "She's got fire. I like that. Shame she's wasting it on you, Santini." Raphael stopped walking. Ariana felt every muscle in his body lock. "Raphael," she whispered. "He's not worth it." For a moment she thought he might turn around anyway. The violence radiating off him was palpable. Then he exhaled slowly and continued walking, guiding her toward the terrace. Once they were outside, away from the crowd, Raphael's control finally snapped. He pulled her against him, his grip almost painful. "I wanted to kill him," he said roughly. "Right there in the ballroom. For looking at you like that. For speaking to you like that. But you didn't. Because you asked me not to." His forehead pressed against hers. "Do you understand what you do to me? The control I have to maintain when anyone looks at you the way he did. He's dangerous, Ariana. Marco De Luca is not a harmless flirt. He's calculating. Ruthless. And the fact that he's interested in you." Raphael's jaw clenched. "That makes you a target." Cold fear trickled down her spine. "What do you mean?" "In my world, people don't just want things for themselves. They want to take them from others. Especially from me." His eyes were dark with barely contained violence. "Marco knows exactly what you mean to me. And that makes you the perfect weapon." Raphael, you're scaring me. Good. His hands gentled on her waist. You should be scared. Because I am. Terrified that my life, my choices, might put you in danger. Then maybe, she swallowed hard. Maybe we should slow down. Create some distance. Just until. No. The word was absolute. No, Ariana. That's exactly what he wants. To make me doubt. To make you doubt. To drive a wedge between us. He cupped her face. I will not let fear steal what we have. What if something happens to me because of you? Then I will burn the world down to keep you safe. His voice was fierce. I will destroy anyone who even thinks about hurting you. Do you understand? You're not just important to me. You're everything. Tears pricked her eyes. That's too much pressure. It's just the truth. He kissed her softly. But I understand your fear. So here's what we're going to do. Starting tomorrow you'll have personal security. 24/7. Raphael, that's excessive. It's necessary. And non-negotiable. His tone left no room for argument. You're mine to protect. Let me do it properly. Ariana wanted to protest. Wanted to argue that she didn't need a bodyguard, that he was overreacting. But the look in his eyes stopped her. This wasn't about control. This was about genuine bone-deep fear. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Relief flooded his expression. He kissed her again, deeper this time, claiming and reassuring in equal measure. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Take me home, Ariana said softly. You're home. I want to forget about Marco and security and all of it. Just for tonight. Raphael's eyes darkened. Are you sure? Yes. He didn't need to be told twice. The next morning, Ariana woke to find Raphael already dressed on the phone, his voice low and commanding. When he noticed she was awake, he ended the call and sat on the edge of the bed. Your security detail starts today, he said. His name is Stefan. Former military. Completely trustworthy. Raphael. Please. His hand found hers. Please don't fight me on this. I need to know you're safe. The vulnerability in his voice broke through her resistance. Okay. He exhaled in relief. Thank you. Stefan turned out to be a quiet, efficient presence. Always there but never intrusive. Ariana adjusted faster than she'd expected. And truthfully, after the way Marco had looked at her, having protection didn't feel quite so excessive. The weeks that followed fell into a new rhythm. Work during the day, evenings at the penthouse. Weekends that blended into each other in the best way. Raphael continued to surprise her. Small gifts, thoughtful gestures, moments of tenderness that contradicted everything the world thought they knew about him. With her he was soft, vulnerable. And Ariana fell deeper in love with him every single day. Then 5 weeks after the gala, everything changed. Ariana was working late at the estate, finishing reports in the library. Stefan waited outside as always. Raphael was in a meeting that had run long. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. But something made her answer. Hello. Heavy breathing. Then a voice, distorted, mechanical. You should have stayed away from him. Her blood ran cold. Who is this? Raphael Santini destroys everything he touches. You'll learn that soon enough. If you have something to say. 3 days. He has 3 days to make this right. Make what right? He knows. The line went dead. Ariana sat frozen, her heart pounding. Her hands trembled as she set down the phone. The door opened. Raphael stepped in, his expression immediately shifting to concern when he saw her face. What happened? Someone just called me. Threatened me. Every trace of softness vanished from Raphael's face. In an instant he was the dangerous man the world feared. Show me. She handed him her phone. He checked the number, his jaw clenching. Burner phone. Untraceable. His eyes met hers. What exactly did they say? She recounted the conversation, watching his expression grow darker with each word. 3 days, he repeated quietly. Fuck. Raphael, what's going on? He was silent for a long moment. Then he pulled out his own phone and made a call. Luca. Emergency meeting. No. Everyone. He hung up and turned to Ariana. Pack a bag. You're staying with me until this is resolved. Raphael, tell me what's happening. There's a situation. His voice was tight. Business. Something I thought I'd handled months ago. Apparently I was wrong. What kind of situation? The kind that puts you in danger. He pulled her to her feet. Which is why you're not leaving my sight until it's fixed. You can't just. Yes, I can. His eyes blazed. You think I'm being controlling? Fine. I am. Because someone just threatened you, Ariana. Someone knows exactly who you are and what you mean to me. And they're using you to get to me. Then maybe I should leave. No. The word was absolute. That's exactly what they want. To isolate you. To make you vulnerable. I'm already vulnerable. This is your world, Raphael. Your enemies. I'm just collateral damage. You're not collateral damage. His voice cracked. You're the woman I love. The woman I'm going to marry. The mother of my future children. You're my entire fucking world, Ariana. So no, you're not leaving. You're staying right here where I can protect you. The words hung in the air. Marry. Children. Future. You want to marry me, she whispered. Raphael's expression softened slightly. Did you think this was temporary? That I'd let you go? You never said. I'm saying it now. He cupped her face. When this is over, when you're safe, I'm putting a ring on your finger and making this permanent. Because I'm not spending another day wondering if you're going to leave. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You're insane. About you? Absolutely. He kissed her forehead. Now please. Let me keep you safe. Ariana nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Raphael called Stefan in, issuing rapid-fire instructions. Then he took Ariana's hand and led her out of the library. But as they walked through the darkened halls of the estate, Ariana couldn't shake the cold fear settling in her bones. Someone wanted to hurt her. To hurt them. And she had a terrible feeling that the next 3 days would test them in ways neither of them was prepared for. The emergency meeting took place in Raphael's private study. Ariana sat beside him, refusing to leave despite his initial protests. 6 men filled the room, his most trusted associates, all of them radiating the same controlled danger Raphael possessed. Explain, Raphael said to Luca, his second in command. Luca, a scarred, hard-faced man in his 40s, pulled out a folder. The Moretti family. We thought the debt was settled after we took their shipping operations 6 months ago. Apparently, Giovanni Moretti didn't agree. Giovanni Moretti is dead, Raphael said coldly. His son isn't. Dante Moretti has been rebuilding. Quietly. Under our radar. Luca slid photographs across the desk. He's made alliances. With the De Lucas, among others. Ariana's stomach dropped. Raphael's jaw clenched. And now he's targeting Ariana. Using her to force your hand, Luca confirmed. The 3-day ultimatum is classic Moretti. They want you to either return what you took or what? Luca's gaze flicked to Ariana. Or they'll take something of equal value from you. Silence. Raphael's hand found Ariana's under the table, gripping so tightly it almost hurt. That's not going to happen, he said quietly. Dangerously. Boss, we need to consider. No. Raphael's voice dropped to that lethal tone. There is nothing to consider. Ariana is off limits. Completely. I don't care what I have to give up, what I have to destroy, what I have to burn. It is untouchable. The men exchanged glances. Raphael, Ariana said quietly, if giving back what you took would end this. No. But. Ariana. He turned to face her fully. Those shipping operations fund half my legitimate businesses. They employ hundreds of people. Giving them back would cripple my organization and make me look weak. Every enemy I've ever made would see it as blood in the water. So what's the alternative? Wait for them to come after me. The alternative is I eliminate the threat. His eyes were cold, empty. Permanently. The violence in his voice sent chills down her spine. You mean kill them? I mean protect what's mine. Ariana pulled her hand from his. This is what I was afraid of. This world. This violence. I can't. You can. Raphael's voice gentled slightly. Because I won't let you face it alone. You can't protect me from everything. Watch me. She wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him he was being impossible, irrational, too much. But looking into his eyes, seeing the absolute determination there, she knew he meant every word. Raphael Santini would burn the world down to keep her safe. The question was, could she live with that? The penthouse became both sanctuary and prison. For 2 days Ariana barely left. Stefan stood guard outside. 2 more of Raphael's men patrolled the building. Security cameras monitored every entrance. Raphael himself rarely left her side, conducting business from his home office, his attention split between phone calls and watching her. She should have felt safe. Instead she felt suffocated. "I can't live like this," she said on the second night, standing at the window overlooking the city. Trapped. Waiting for something terrible to happen. Raphael looked up from his laptop, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. He hadn't slept properly since the threat. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His normally immaculate appearance had deteriorated. Stubble on his jaw, hair disheveled from running his hands through it. "It's temporary," he said. "Is it? Because it feels pretty permanent." She turned to face him. "You've built your entire life around control and power. But you can't control this, can you? You can't make it go away with money or threats or violence." "I'm working on it." "By planning to kill people?" Her voice rose. "By starting a war that could get you killed too?" Raphael stood, crossing to her in 3 long strides. "What do you want me to do, Ariana? Give up? Let them take you? Let them hurt you? I want you to consider that maybe I'm not worth all this destruction." The words hung between them like a grenade. Raphael's eyes flashed with something dark and wounded. "Say that again. Raphael. Say it again," he repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. "Tell me you're not worth fighting for. Tell me you're not worth protecting. Tell me I should just let them have you." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" He gripped her shoulders, not hard enough to hurt but firm enough to keep her attention. "Because from where I'm standing you're telling me to choose my empire over you. My reputation over your life. And that's not a choice I'm willing to make." Tears burned her eyes. "I'm scared, Raphael. Scared of what loving you cost. Scared of what it might cost you." His expression softened slightly. "I've been scared every day since I met you. Scared of feeling this much. Scared of losing you. Scared that I'll fail to protect you." His thumbs brushed her cheeks. "But I'd rather live in fear with you than live safely without you. That's the choice I've made. The only choice I'll ever make. What if they hurt you because of me? Then you'll have to put me back together." His lips curved into a sad smile. "Just like I'll do for you. That's what love is, tesoro. It's choosing each other even when it's terrifying." Ariana collapsed against his chest and he held her tightly, his hand stroking her hair. "I love you," she whispered. "So much it hurts. I love you more." He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "And tomorrow this ends. One way or another." She pulled back to look at him. "What happens tomorrow?" "I'm meeting with Dante Moretti. Neutral ground. We're going to settle this." Fear spiked through her. What if it's a trap? It probably is. His voice was calm, accepting. "But I can't keep you locked up here forever. And I won't live under the shadow of his threats. So I'm going to end it." "How?" "By giving him what he wants." Ariana's breath caught. "The shipping operations?" "No." Raphael's eyes held hers. "By giving him the one thing he actually wants. Me." "What?" "No. Listen to me." His hands framed her face. "Dante doesn't want the shipping operations. Those are gone. Liquidated. What he wants is revenge. He wants to see me suffer. Wants to take from me what I took from his family." "Then don't go. Don't give him that satisfaction. If I don't, he'll come after you. Forever. Every day of our lives, we'll be looking over our shoulders, waiting for him to strike." Raphael's voice was firm. "That's not a life. That's not the future I want for us. So I'm going to face him. And I'm going to make sure he understands that touching you means his complete annihilation." "Raphael, please. I need you to trust me," he said quietly. "Can you do that?" Ariana wanted to scream no. Wanted to lock the doors and refused to let him leave. But looking into his eyes, seeing the determination and love there, she understood. This was who he was. A protector. A warrior. A man who would face any danger to keep his people safe. "I trust you," she whispered. Relief flooded his face. He kissed her then, deep and desperate, like a man saying goodbye. "No matter what happens tomorrow, he murmured against her lips. Remember that you're the best thing that ever happened to me. You made me feel human again. Made me believe I could be more than the monster everyone thinks I am. You're not a monster. With you I'm not. He rested his forehead against hers. With you I'm just a man in love. They spent that night wrapped in each other, making love with an intensity that felt like both a promise and a farewell. And when Ariana finally fell asleep in his arms, Raphael stayed awake, memorizing every detail of her face. Tomorrow he would face Dante Moretti. And one of them wouldn't walk away. Morning arrived too quickly. Ariana woke alone. Panic seized her until she heard Raphael's voice from the living room, low and commanding. She pulled on his shirt and padded out to find him on the phone, already dressed in a black suit that made him look both elegant and deadly. He ended the call when he saw her. You're already dressed, she said, her voice small. The meeting is at noon. I wanted to let you sleep. He crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. How are you feeling? Terrified. Me too. The admission surprised her. Raphael rarely acknowledged fear. When will you be back? She asked. By tonight. I promise. Don't make promises you might not keep. His grip tightened. I'm coming back to you, Ariana. That's not a maybe. That's a certainty. I have too much to live for now. He kissed her thoroughly and she clung to him, trying to memorize the feel of his arms around her, the taste of him, the way he made her feel safe even when the world was falling apart. I love you, she whispered. Ti amo tesoro. Always. He pulled back, his eyes intense. Stefan will stay with you. Don't leave the penthouse for any reason. Understand? Yes. If something goes wrong, if you don't hear from me by 6 p.m., there's an envelope in the safe. The combination is your birthday. It has everything you need. Money, documents, instructions. Raphael, don't. Just in case. He pressed another kiss to her forehead. I'll see you tonight. Then he was gone. Ariana stood in the empty living room, her heart pounding, dread settling like lead in her stomach. Something was wrong. She could feel it. The hours crawled by with excruciating slowness. Noon came and went. 1 p.m. 2 p.m. Ariana tried to distract herself. Reading, watching television, anything to stop the anxious spiral of her thoughts. But every sound made her jump. Every minute felt like an eternity. At 3 p.m. her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her hands trembled as she answered. Hello. Miss Greco. A smooth, cultured voice. Not the distorted one from before. My name is Dante Moretti. Ice flooded her veins. Where's Raphael? Safe. For now. She heard the smile in his voice. We're having a very interesting conversation. Let me talk to him. In a moment. First, you and I need to chat. I have nothing to say to you. Oh, I think you do. His tone turned cold. You see, Raphael seems to think he can negotiate with me. Buy his way out of what he owes. But we both know that's not how this works. What do you want? Justice. He destroyed my family. Took everything we built. Left us with nothing. The hatred in his voice was palpable. And then he had the audacity to find happiness. To fall in love. To build something beautiful while my world burned. That's not my fault. No. But you're the key to making him understand loss. Dante paused. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to come to me. Willingly. Or Raphael dies. Those are your options. You're lying. You want him dead anyway. True. But I want him to suffer first. And watching you walk away from him, choosing his life over your safety? That's the kind of suffering that breaks a man. Dante's voice dropped. Come to the old Moretti warehouse on the docks. Pier 17. You have 1 hour. Come alone or I start sending Raphael back to you in pieces. How do I know he's even alive? There was a shuffling sound. Then Raphael's voice, rough and strained. Ariana, don't you dare. The phone cut off. Ariana stood frozen, her entire body shaking. Raphael was alive. But trapped. And Dante would kill him unless she surrendered herself. She looked at Stefan standing guard by the door. I need to use the bathroom, she said, keeping her voice steady. He nodded and she disappeared into the bedroom, her mind racing. She couldn't let Raphael die. But if she told Stefan, he'd stop her. Lock her down. Call for backup. And by the time they organized a rescue, it might be too late. There was only one choice. He had to go. Ariana grabbed her phone, her keys, and the small canister of pepper spray Raphael had insisted she carry. Then she locked the bathroom door from the inside and climbed out the window onto the fire escape. Her heart pounded as she descended, praying Stefan wouldn't notice her absence until it was too late. She reached the street and hailed a cab, giving the driver the address with a voice that didn't shake. "You sure about that location, miss?" the driver asked, eyeing her expensive clothes. "That's not a safe area." "I'm sure." The drive felt both too long and too short. Ariana's mind spun with fear and determination. She was probably walking into a trap. Probably going to die. But if there was even a chance of saving Raphael, she had to take it. The warehouse district was exactly as dangerous as the driver had suggested. Abandoned buildings. Graffiti-covered walls. The smell of salt water and decay. Pier 17 loomed ahead, a massive structure of rusted metal and broken windows. Ariana paid the driver and stepped out, her legs trembling. "Last chance to change your mind," the driver said. "I can't." He shook his head and drove away, leaving her alone in the gathering dusk. Ariana walked toward the warehouse, each step feeling like a countdown to disaster. The door was open. She stepped inside. The space was cavernous. Old shipping containers stacked haphazardly, pools of water on the concrete floor, the sound of dripping echoing through the darkness. "Hello," she called out, her voice echoing. Lights suddenly blazed to life, blinding her. When her vision cleared, she saw them. Raphael tied to a chair in the center of the space, blood running from a cut on his temple. His eyes widened in horror when he saw her. "No," he breathed. "No, Ariana, run." Touching. Dante Moretti stepped out of the shadows. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe 30, with cold eyes and a smile that promised cruelty. Marco DeLuca stood beside him, his earlier charm replaced with something vicious. "You actually came," Dante continued, sounding surprised. "Fascinating. Raphael said you would, but I didn't believe him. I thought you'd be smarter than that." "Let him go," Ariana said, forcing strength into her voice. "You have me. That's what you wanted." "No, Tesoro," Raphael said, his voice breaking. "Don't do this." Dante backhanded him casually and Raphael's head snapped to the side. Ariana lunged forward, but Marco caught her arm, his grip bruising. "Careful," Marco murmured. "The fun hasn't even started yet." Dante circled Raphael's chair slowly, like a predator enjoying the hunt. "You know what the funny thing is, Santini? I didn't think you were capable of love. Thought you were too cold, too controlled. But look at you now." He gestured to Ariana. Completely destroyed by the thought of losing her. "Please," Raphael said, and the desperation in his voice broke Ariana's heart. "Please, Dante. Take everything. The operations, the money, my territory. Just let her go." "Why would I do that? This is so much better." Dante pulled out a gun. "Tell you what. I'll give you a choice. You can watch her die or she can watch you die. Either way, someone's leaving here in a body bag." "Kill me," Raphael said immediately. "Let her live." "No." Ariana screamed. "No, you can't." "Interesting." Dante pointed the gun at Raphael's head. "Any last words?" Raphael's eyes locked on Ariana's. "I love you. I'll love you in every lifetime. Find happiness, Tesoro." Live. The gunshot was deafening. But it wasn't Dante's gun. It was Stefan's. The room erupted into chaos. Stefan and a team of Raphael's men burst in from multiple entrances, weapons drawn. Dante dove for cover. Marco released Ariana and ran. In the confusion, Ariana rushed to Raphael, her hands shaking as she tried to untie him. "You're supposed to be at the penthouse," he said, even as he helped her with the ropes. "Like I was going to let you die." "Stubborn woman. You're stubborn woman." The ropes came free. Raphael pulled her behind a shipping container as gunfire exploded around them. "Stay down," he ordered, his body shielding hers. The firefight lasted less than 2 minutes. Raphael's men were professionals, organized, lethal. Dante's people scattered or fell. When the shooting stopped, Stefan appeared beside them. "All clear, boss. Dante got away, but we got most of his men. Marco's in custody." Raphael nodded, then turned to Ariana, his expression torn between relief and fury. "You left the penthouse," he said quietly. "After I specifically told you, You're welcome, she interrupted. You could have been killed. So could you. Her voice rose. What was I supposed to do? Stay safe while you died. Yes. He gripped her shoulders. Yes, that's exactly what you were supposed to do. Your safety is more important than my life. Not to me, it isn't. Tears streamed down her face. I love you, you idiot. I'm not going to sit in a tower while you sacrifice yourself. That's not how this works. Raphael stared at her for a long moment. Then, despite the blood and chaos around them, he started laughing. You're insane, he said. I learned from the best. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. Don't ever do that again, he whispered. Don't ever risk yourself for me. Then don't give me a reason to. He pulled back, cupping her face in his hands. You terrify me. Good. Now we're even. He kissed her then, hard and desperate and full of relief. When they finally broke apart, Stefan cleared his throat. Boss, we need to move. Dante's still out there and the police will be here soon. Raphael nodded. Get everyone out. Clean this up. He turned to Ariana. Can you walk? Yes. Then let's go home. Home turned out to be the estate, not the penthouse. Raphael wanted the security of his full team around them while they regrouped. The medic checked them both over. Raphael had a concussion and bruised ribs. Ariana had bruises on her arm from Marco's grip. Nothing life-threatening, but enough to remind them how close they'd come to losing everything. Later that night, after showers and fresh clothes, they lay in Raphael's bed, wrapped around each other. Dante's still out there, Ariana said quietly. This isn't over. No, Raphael agreed. But he's lost most of his men. Most of his resources. And Marco's talking. By tomorrow we'll know where Dante's hiding. And then I end this. Permanently. His arm tightened around her. I won't let him threaten you again. Ariana was silent for a moment. When you were tied to that chair and Dante pointed the gun at you, I realized something. What? That I'd rather die with you than live without you. That's probably unhealthy and codependent and all the things therapists warn against, but it's the truth. Raphael shifted to look down at her. That's the most romantic and terrifying thing anyone's ever said to me. I contain multitudes. He smiled, but it faded quickly. I'm sorry I put you in danger. I'm sorry my life, my choices almost got you killed. Raphael. Let me finish. He took a shaky breath. I've spent my whole life building power. Creating an empire. Making sure no one could ever hurt me again. But all that power, all that control, it didn't mean anything when I was sitting in that chair watching you walk in to save me. Because I realized that you are my empire now. You're what I'm building. What I'm protecting. Everything else is just noise. Tears slipped down Ariana's cheeks. You can't give up everything you've built. I'm not giving it up. I'm reorganizing my priorities. His thumb brushed away her tears. I want out of the dangerous parts. The parts that put you at risk. I want to go legitimate. Build something real. Something that won't get you killed. That's a big change. You're worth it. He kissed her softly. Besides, I'm tired of being the villain in everyone's story. Maybe it's time to be the hero in yours. You already are. His eyes softened. Then marry me. Ariana's breath caught. What? Marry me, he repeated. Not someday. Not when things are safe. No. Tomorrow. As soon as humanly possible. Because life is short and dangerous and unpredictable, and I don't want to waste another second not being your husband. That's possibly the worst proposal I've ever heard. Is that a yes? Yes, you impossible man. Yes. The smile that broke across his face was pure joy. He kissed her deeply, thoroughly until they were both breathless. I don't have a ring yet, he admitted. I don't care. I'll get you one. The biggest diamond you've ever seen. Raphael. She pressed her finger to his lips. I don't need a big diamond. I just need you. Alive. Safe. Here with me. You have me, he promised. For the rest of our lives you have me. They made love that night with a tenderness that belied the violence of the day. Every touch was a promise. Every kiss a vow. And when they finally fell asleep tangled together, both knew that whatever came next they'd face it together. Dante Moretti was found 3 days later, hiding in a safe house in the mountains. Raphael's men brought him in alive, per Raphael's instructions. "I want him to face justice," Raphael had said. "Real justice. Not just my revenge." With Marco's testimony and evidence Raphael's team had gathered, Dante was charged with attempted murder, kidnapping, and a dozen other crimes. He'd spend the rest of his life in prison. Marco De Luca, in exchange for his cooperation, received a lighter sentence. His family, humiliated by his betrayal, disowned him completely. The threat was over. Finally, truly over. Raphael kept his promise about going legitimate. He sold off the dangerous parts of his empire, invested in legal businesses, and slowly transformed himself from a man feared to a man respected. It wasn't easy. Old enemies didn't forget. Old habits died hard. But with Ariana beside him, Raphael found the strength to become someone new. Someone better. 2 months after the warehouse incident, they were married in a small ceremony at the estate. Just close friends, family, and the people who'd risked their lives to save them. Ariana wore a simple white dress that Raphael couldn't stop staring at. He wore a charcoal suit and cried when she walked down the aisle. "I never thought I'd have this," he whispered during their first dance. "A real family. The future. Happiness." "You deserve it," Ariana murmured. "All of it. Only because I have you." She smiled against his chest. "We have each other. That's what matters." 6 months later, Ariana stood in the bathroom of their penthouse, staring at the pregnancy test in her shaking hands. Positive. She was pregnant. Fear and joy warred inside her. This was everything they'd talked about wanting. But the timing felt sudden. Overwhelming. "Tesoro." Raphael's voice called from the bedroom. "Are you all right?" She took a deep breath and walked out, the test still in her hand. Raphael was sitting on the edge of the bed, going through some paperwork. He looked up, and his expression immediately shifted to concern. "What's wrong?" She held up the test. Raphael stared at it for a long moment. Then his gaze shot to hers, wide and disbelieving. "You're pregnant." "Yes." He stood slowly, crossing to her like he was afraid she might disappear. His hand covered hers, both of them holding the test together. "We're having a baby," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "Are you happy?" she asked nervously. "I know we said we wanted this, but—" "Happy." He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was made of glass. "Ariana, I've never been happier in my entire life." Relief flooded through her. "Really? Really?" He pulled back to look at her, tears shining in his eyes. "You're giving me a family. A real family. After everything I've lost, everything I've done wrong, you're giving me this gift. How could I be anything but grateful? It's going to change everything." "Good. I want it to change everything." He pressed a hand to her still flat stomach with reverence. "This is our future. Our legacy. Something built on love instead of power." Ariana covered his hand with hers, tears streaming down her face. "I love you. I love you more." He kissed her softly. "Both of you." The pregnancy wasn't easy. Ariana suffered from severe morning sickness in the first trimester. Raphael was beside himself with worry, hovering constantly, driving her slightly insane with his overprotectiveness. "I'm pregnant, not dying," she said one morning after he tried to carry her to the bathroom for the 3rd time. "I know. But you're carrying my child. That makes you doubly precious." "Doubly annoying, you mean?" He grinned. "That too." But despite the challenges, those 9 months were the happiest of both their lives. Raphael attended every doctor's appointment, read every pregnancy book, and talked to her stomach every night before bed. "I'm going to protect you," he'd whisper to their unborn child. "I'm going to give you everything I didn't have. Safety, love, a father who's present, and a mother who's the strongest, most beautiful woman in the world." Ariana would pretend to be annoyed, but secretly she loved every moment of it. The nursery was prepared months in advance. Raphael had commissioned custom furniture, hired the best designers, and personally vetted every single product that would touch their child's skin. "You're being excessive," Ariana said, looking at the mountain of baby supplies. "There's no such thing as excessive when it comes to our family." She couldn't argue with that logic. Isabella Sofia Santini was born on a warm spring morning, weighing 7 pounds and screaming loud enough to make the nurses laugh. Raphael cried when he held her for the first time. This powerful man who'd faced down enemies and survived impossible odds, reduced to tears by a tiny baby with dark hair and her mother's eyes. "She's perfect," he whispered, cradling her with infinite gentleness. "Absolutely perfect." Ariana, exhausted but glowing, watched them together. "We made that. We made a miracle." Raphael leaned down to kiss her. "Thank you. For her. For us. For everything. Thank you for not giving up on us when things got hard." "Never." His eyes were fierce. "I will never give up on this family. On our life together. You're stuck with me, Tesoro." "Good. Because I'm not going anywhere." Isabella chose that moment to yawn, and both her parents melted. "We're in so much trouble," Raphael said. "The best kind of trouble," Ariana agreed. 5 years later, the Santini estate had transformed completely. The once cold mansion now echoed with laughter and the sound of small feet running through the halls. Isabella had inherited her father's stubbornness and her mother's intelligence, a combination that kept both parents on their toes. Raphael had gone fully legitimate. His businesses thrived through honest means, and his reputation had shifted from feared to respected. He served on charity boards, donated to causes that mattered, and used his influence for good. But his favorite role was simply being a father and husband. "Papa." Isabella ran into his office one afternoon, her dark curls bouncing. "Mama says you have to come see the garden. The roses are blooming." Raphael closed his laptop immediately. "Then I suppose I have no choice." She grabbed his hand, tugging him toward the door. "Come on. Mama's waiting." They found Ariana in the garden she'd cultivated over the years, wearing a sundress and a wide-brimmed hat, her hands dirty from planting. She looked up when they approached, and her smile made Raphael's heart skip exactly the way it had 5 years ago. Some things never changed. "Look." Isabella pointed at the roses. "Aren't they pretty?" "Beautiful," Raphael agreed. But he was looking at his wife. Ariana rolled her eyes affectionately. "Smooth Santini. I learned from the best." Isabella tugged on his sleeve. "Papa, can we have a tea party? Mama said we need you to make it official." "A tea party requires my presence?" "All the best parties do," Ariana said with a grin. Raphael pretended to consider. "Well, if it's official business." Isabella squealed and ran toward the patio where she'd set up her tiny table and chairs. Raphael pulled Ariana close, stealing a kiss. "Happy." Deliriously. She wrapped her arms around his neck. "You. More than I ever thought possible." His hand found her stomach, where their second child was just beginning to show. "And getting happier every day. You're getting soft, Santini. Only with you." He kissed her again. "And I wouldn't have it any other way." "Papa." "Mama." Isabella called. "The tea is getting cold." They laughed and walked hand in hand toward their daughter, toward the life they'd built together. A life that had started with danger and obsession but had transformed into something beautiful. Something real. Something worth every risk they'd taken to be together. Because in the end, love wasn't about perfect circumstances or easy choices. It was about choosing each other. Every single day. Through danger and peace. Through fear and joy. Through every challenge life threw their way. Raphael Santini had once been the most feared man in the city. Now he was simply a man in love. A husband. A father. And he'd never been more powerful. The end. Plug. 10 years after that first meeting in the marble foyer, Ariana and Raphael sat on their terrace watching the sunset. Isabella was 8 now, and her younger brother Marco, named for redemption not revenge, was 3. Both children were inside with their grandmother, Raphael's aunt, who'd returned to help raise the next generation of Santinis. "Do you ever miss it?" Ariana asked quietly. "The power. The fear. The old life." Raphael considered for a moment. "No. Not even a little." "Really?" He turned to face her, taking her hand. "That life was empty. I thought control meant safety. Thought power meant I could never be hurt again. I was wrong. Real safety isn't about walls and weapons. It's about having someone worth protecting. Worth living for. Even though I almost got you killed, you saved my life." He kissed her knuckles. "In every way that matters. Smooth talker. Only for you, Tesoro. Only ever for you." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn from gold to purple to indigo. "Thank you," Ariana whispered. "For what?" "For being brave enough to love me. For changing your entire world so we could have this." "You changed my world the moment you walked into it," Raphael said. "I just finally had the sense to let you." Inside they heard Isabella laugh at something Marco had done, followed by his delighted giggles. This was what Raphael Santini had fought for. This was what made every sacrifice worth it. Not power or control or fear, but love. Family. A future filled with hope instead of darkness. And looking at the woman beside him, the woman who'd resigned when he failed to protect her but came back to save him anyway, Raphael knew he'd found something far more valuable than any empire. He'd found home. The end.